But I think that's typical, really, of straight men. I think there's a difference between straight men and gay men, okay? And that difference is the if you had to. Gay men haven't got an if you had to. I think it's because they're so comfortable with their sexuality, they don't think, oh, God, if I had to have sex with a woman, yeah, Delia Smith. No. But straight men, right, get a group of straight men together, and after enough beers, the conversation will arise, well, if you had to. If you had to. And that conversation arose with me for the first time 2 weeks ago when I was in a group of my friends. I'd never given it any thought in the past, because I'm really straight. Really straight. Okay. So it's never crossed my mind. But they were saying things like Orlando Bloom or Brad Pitt, you know, the kind where you're so pissed up and you look at them through that drunken haze and it looks a little bit like a girl because they're so pretty. And they said to me, Liam, who would you be if you had to? And I hadn't thought about it, you know, and I'm not a superficial guy, as you can probably tell. Guys like me can't afford to be superficial. I look like I own a sex shop, the guy that Jimmy Carr was talking about earlier. God, I love Jimmy Carr. But it wasn't Jimmy Carr. And I was thinking, who would be my if I had to? I thought it'd have to be someone who's sort of warm and gentle and educated, you know, and smiling all the time. And it was Professor Brian Cox. And they said Professor Brian Cox, and they said why, and I found my mind wandering to a moment where perhaps I'd gone to see one of his live lectures, and he said, you know, we had a chat over a sandwich, and he said, oh, I quite like you, Liam. And I said, oh, Brian, I've been a long time fan of yours as well, as it happens. And Brian would say, Liam, let me take you by the hand. Can I meet you for a picnic later? And I said, oh, I could go for a picnic if you want, Brian, it'd be good, you know. And he says, you know, what I could do, he said, we could go out in the field, you know, and maybe I could teach you some things about the stars. And I'd meet him there, I'd meet him in the field, and he'd have a basket ready. That's Brian, isn't it? He'd have his basket, and we'd walk out into the middle of the field, and then he'd open the basket and he'd pull the blanket out, and we'd lie there together looking at the stars, and occasionally he'd say, Liam, the Leonids, and I'd go, oh, Brian. And he'd open the wine and the cheese, and we would partake of the wine and the cheese together. And he would sing a really slow version of Things Could Only Get Better. At which point he would say, Liam, come back to my observatory with me. And I'd go back to the observatory. We'd be there. It'd be quite an awkward silence at first, and then slowly he'd enter me. And it'd have to be that way, because like, he's famous, isn't he? And what have I got? You know, he's got a TV show and everything, hasn't he?
It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to hurt, yeah. Can I keep that? And use it again. And he'd be smiling all the way through it. Really happy, you know. And in the morning he'd wake up and he'd turn over. In the same way that all people who smile a lot, you'd see the other side of Brian. And he'd be like, what can you make me do? I got away from kids! And a fucking television show! And what have you got? I've got the memories, Brian. Get out! Get out now! Likely even probably go home and watch The Wonders of the Universe, wonder about that night. So that's Brian Cox, that is. That's how it went in my head, really. And it got me thinking as well, Brian Cox is inspiring a group of young people now, isn't he, to get into science and everything. And it's wonderful to see. I mean, my son and I bonded over Wonders of the Universe. Don't worry, it's nothing sexy, okay? We bonded over Wonders of the Universe, and we would find it difficult, you know, because he wasn't a footballer or anything, or boxing or rugby, like man's sports for straight men like me. We watched Wonders of the Universe and we bonded over it. And it got me thinking about the state of education in South Wales, because latest government statistics say that 13.5% of people in South Wales will leave secondary school education without a single qualification. I mean, not one qualification. Now, I found that hard to believe. I'm self-employed, and I put an advert on the job centre recently and said, look, send your CVs in to me. I want to see what I'm dealing with, you know. And I promise you, the first 3 CVs that came in to my inbox, the first said under talents, strong oral skills. Now, anyone who's pictured for promotion before they've got a job is worth a look, I think. But nonetheless, literacy is high on my agenda. The second, under interests, it said falconry, brackets, except with owls. Fuck, I wish I was in the window now. So I got to get this guy in, you know, and I said to him, I said, what you got against owls, you owlish prick? And he went, no, you've got me all wrong, He said, I do the falconry with the owls, I don't do it with falcons, I do it with owls. So you're an owl keeper then? Yeah, have I got the job? No, fuck no. And the third, and my favourite, had absolutely no grammar in it whatsoever, and the lady had previously been a dog breeder, okay? Yeah, dog breeder's fucking mad, isn't it? And under her interests, it said, cooking, the gym, eating out, my dogs.
And then?
Eating out my dogs. It's the accent, isn't it? Caught you. And it just pervades society at the moment, this lack of education. I mean, my 3-year-old came in to my bedroom the other day, and I'm quite conscious about my weight at the moment, quite sensitive about it. I put on a lot of weight since I got married. I know it's not my wife, I'm not lazy about that. But she said, basically, when I lie backwards, my face resembles a plate of melted cheese. There are ultimately no edges to my face. So it's not like I've got 1 chin or 2 chins or 8 chins. I've just got a meld of skin and muscle tissue, which is why I've grown this beard, really, to show edges. Anyway, by and by, in she comes and she says, "Daddy, where's your chin?" You're so sweet. Because it brings it all into perspective when a child is that. You know, she's 3 years old, she's just started school. And yet she's still got that childlike wonder about her. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I say, I can't see what you see through your eyes, so why don't you go into your bedroom and maybe you can, you know, do a bit of a squiggle for me of my face as you see it, and then bring it back into me, and then I'll see my face through your eyes. How's about that, darling? Oh yeah, off she goes. I can hear the paper crack. I hear the pens coming on, and she comes back in and she brings the picture in. And I've got the picture here. Would you like to see it? Yeah, good, please, thanks.
I can't believe it.
Here you go. Daddy by Millie age 3. It's good, isn't it? Yeah. No, it isn't. E-. When you can actually read the picture of something, rather, then you can criticise. Now fuck off! So she's still crying, and you find that funny, you bunch of outrageous larcenous bastards. I want to leave you with this thought, and it does sort of dovetail into the education thing I've been talking about, and it's writing on toilet walls. And I was in a town called Narberth, and Narberth's quite a popular tourist destination in Wales. It's in West Wales. Anyone been to Narberth? I know! God, I know a guy be interested in you. There's a place in Narberth, and the public toilets are absolutely disgusting, I've got to tell you, they're terrible. But I was busting, and it wasn't the kind of busting where you stand up, it was the kind of busting where you sit down. So I'm in this toilet, right, and there's no lock on the door either. A part of me thinking, God, I hope Brian Cox walks in now. And the other part of me is looking at the door thinking, Christ, if that moves, I'm going to unleash hell. And then I'm staring at the door, and it said on the door, it said, for young cook fun, call this number. And there was a mobile phone number on there, and I thought, cook fun. What's that about? So I was talking to one of my gay friends later in the evening, and I said, I saw this thing on toilet wall, perhaps you know what it's all about. And he said, well, what did it say? I said, well, it said for young cook fun, call 079. He said, oh, basically, Liam, what that is, that's where gentlemen want to have liaisons with other gentlemen of a younger nature on a no strings, no names basis. It's basically should have said young cock fun. I thought I was entering my son into Junior MasterChef. But he got entered anyway. Good night.